Hi, friend. Let's talk about another story. Last week we had a fishing tale. This time I want to talk about what sounds like a tall tale. Jesus is with the disciples. He's told them to go ahead and cross the Sea of Galilee without him. They go by boat, and he travels separately. Now, no one understands where he thought he was going to go. At least we don't, or they didn't. But there was a plan laid out in advance. And so the disciples are out in the ocean. They're sailing into the wind. They're not making any progress. In fact, they think the boat might be lost. My brother and I were traveling in a canoe on a lake in upstate New York one time, and we were sitting there, and the wind kicked up in our faces, and we were paddling, and we were barely able to just hold our position. We were getting exhausted. We were frustrated. And boy, it was really hard to watch the sewage boat go by. And they passed us up, and we thought, boy, this is really bad. The disciples are out there. They're at risk of their life. They're not just out for a casual canoe on a lake. They're in the Sea of Galilee, which could get dangerous at a time like this. And there in the middle of the night, John 6, verses 19 and 20, we get these words. They saw Jesus walking on the sea, and they were frightened. I bet they were. But he said to them, "It is I, do not be afraid." The first point we want to take away from this lesson is that obedience doesn't remove difficulty from our lives. Sometimes we think that when we experience difficulty or even failure, that we are failing at a catastrophic level, that God has abandoned us, God has left us alone. No, Jesus sent the disciples into this storm. He told them to go out to sea. And then as they're in the midst of their struggle, in the midst of their fear, somebody comes walking up on the water. You can imagine how terrifying that would be. It sounds like a horror movie of some sort. But he says something there, and in English you may miss it. He says, "It is I." That's the phrase ego a me, which means I am. I am. And that's a very powerful construction, because to the Jewish listener, when someone uses those two expressions together, two different versions of the verb to be, it is a statement of divinity. It is a claim to be Yahweh, the Hebrew for I am. And so Jesus does this 7 times that are famous in the Gospel of John, but he does it many times, actually. He refers to himself as ego a me over and over again. He is God. And he walks on the waters of our troubled lives. We're struggling. We're failing. He's in control. And that's so hard to keep track of. When we are in our suffering, when we are experiencing setbacks, when we are even failures, Jesus walks on those troubled waters. He comes up beside us. And perhaps like the disciples, we're afraid of losing control, afraid of not being empowered in our own lives, afraid of something bigger than us. But he is. He always is bigger, more powerful, and in control. Wouldn't life be easier if we accepted that? And so what we need to understand too about this, and what could be incredibly comforting, is that what threatens us does not threaten Jesus. The water doesn't threaten him. He walks on it. The waves do not distract him. He crosses them. The trouble we face is under his feet. The storms of life, they reveal our limits. We experience our limits on a regular basis. We can't control other people. We can't control other circumstances. Sometimes, friends, we can barely control ourselves, and maybe not even that. But Jesus has all power. He is the Word who has created all things. So the presence of Jesus brings peace beyond all understanding. The presence of Jesus brings comfort even in the waves, even as we're failing. Even as our strength runs out, his strength is ever present. When we recognize Christ with us, peace comes. Not because the storms have ceased, not because the failures have stopped. Even betrayals may come, but He is with us, ever present, the very source of being, the great I am. Why don't we trust in Him? That's the question for eternity. God bless you, friend. I hope to see you around. Take care.